Welcome back. You're listening to Get Real with Bob and Stacy here on the Money Matters Radio Network. We're joined in studio by a very special guest today for our Leaders and Legends segment, Roberta Matuson of Matuson Consulting. Welcome to the show, Roberta.
Thank you.
So we invited you here today to talk a little bit about your book. Your most recent book was Talent Magnetism.
Yes, that's correct.
And for anybody that's listening to the show right now, if they wanted to buy the book, what's the best way to do that?
Well, the best way is to probably go to Amazon and hit their one click.
Mm-hmm. Oh, how about that? So you're right on Amazon then.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
All right, and it's Talent Magnetism. And they can also, anybody that's interested in the stuff we talk about in the show today, they can get on your website as well, which is Roberta@Matuson.com. It's Matuson, right?
Actually, it's Roberta. That's my email is Roberta@MatusonConsulting.com.
Sorry about that. Yep.
However, the website is MatusonConsulting.com.
Okay. All right, good. So talk a little bit about your book, Talent Magnetism. What's it about?
Well, Talent Magnetism is about helping companies build a workplace that attracts and keeps the best. Mm-hmm. And it's really interesting because I seem to have this knack of being able to look out over the horizon and see what's coming down the pike. And I noticed about 3 years ago that it was getting a little tight as far as talent.
Right.
For companies who were seeking talent, they were finding it a little more challenging. And so if you look at the demographics, you could kind of project out that this just wasn't a little blip, that this was really going to be happening. And so when I proposed that book to my publisher, there was a lot of excitement around that. And lo and behold, fast forward a few years later, and here we are.
Right.
Finding talent feels like it's almost impossible.
And that's true in pretty much all industries. I know it's true in ours,
Absolutely.
In finance, and I hear the same thing from a lot of other business owners.
Absolutely.
Do you know why that is?
Well, it's because of the fact that our economy is doing fairly well in most parts of the country. It's also because today's employees now feel like they have more of a choice, and they do. There are actually a record number of job openings, postings. It's 5.4 million.
Wow.
So, you can pick and choose for most people.
And it seems like nowadays it can no longer be about, for example, compensation. Like that's the last thing. I won't say the last thing, but there's so many other things that employees are looking for. What are some of the things that you find that attract great talent?
Well, that's a really good question, and I'm glad you brought up the fact of compensation because a lot of employers think that because they've been reading that employees don't care about compensation, and they actually do. They do want to feel like they're compensated fairly for the value that they bring to an organization. Most are also looking for career development. They want an organization that's going to invest in them. Mm-hmm. And they want to feel a connection to the purpose of the organization.
Right. And when you say that compensation is important, I mean, how do you set a number that's going to appeal to employees? And does it differ based on whether or not they have a certain level of experience in that industry or another, or?
Well, there's a lot of factors that go into place when you're looking at compensation. But, it's like real estate. It's based on the market.
Right.
Supply and demand.
Right. So I imagine the closer you get into Boston with things being more expensive, then compensation would have to adjust upward accordingly, correct?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Can you talk a little bit about building a magnetic workplace? I loved, for example, you said the Ritz-Carlton Hotel allows employees to spend up to $2,000 to satisfy any single guest. How cool is that?
Wow.
I think it's really cool. And the reason why it's really cool is that, last week I had an experience with a company where I was trying to get a refund of a very small amount because I never received the product that they supposedly shipped. And I couldn't believe the amount of hoops that I had to go through when I was calling a customer service rep. I thought that was their job, was to service me, the client. And when the woman said to me, I need to talk to my supervisor before approving your refund of $3.21.
Nuts. Holy cow.
I
Wow.
just
$3.
thought, imagine what it must be like to work for this employer.
Wow.
Wow.
So I reached out to the CEO and basically said, we need to talk. Well, I'm still waiting for his call.
Holy cow.
Wow, over $3.
It was ridiculous. And I said, I've never gotten the product. I went out, I bought it, in a real store. And please don't send me another one. Just please credit my account. And you would not believe it. And this goes on in companies all over. So it has to be really frustrating to work in an environment like that.
One thing that's really interesting, just because this has been a hot topic lately, I've been out to Zappos in Las Vegas, and I've trained under them because they actually have this coaching program for leaders, and they teach you how to build this awesome company culture where everybody wants to work for you. What's interesting to me is Zappos is now owned by Amazon, and they now tend to have the opposite. At least from a public perspective, it seems like the employees don't really love being at Amazon. Do you ever see those are two different companies, but kind of owned by the same group. Do you ever see within a company they're doing a lot of things right, but then they're also doing a lot of things wrong?
Well, I think what happens in companies is that, there are different zones, let's call them climate zones in an organization. So, for example, it could be sunny and, everybody's really happy in sales, and it could be raining in customer service because people are at their desks crying because they have no authority to do their jobs or they're asked to work hours that they're unable to work. So I think what happens is we look at an organization typically, and we look at the whole company when in fact there might be sections of the company that are doing pretty well and the people are happy, and other sections where they're not.
Wow. Can you share some of the creative perks that you talk about? So if an employer wants to offer cool stuff to the employees and maybe they don't have a ton of money to offer extra compensation, what are some of the cool things they could do?
Well, here's what my client, Price Chopper, is doing. And they're doing this as a result of reading my book, Talent Magnetism. They hire a lot of hourly workers and a lot of young people that are in school. And they are putting together a tuition forgiveness program. And they are going to be helping their employees, many of who are part-time, pay back their student loans.
Wow.
And they're going to be launching this program on a trial basis. And I think it's really cool. I think it's going to be a game changer for them. They're the first in their industry to do it. And I think it's going to make a huge difference in their ability to attract and keep talent. And when I look at that and I look at the dollars that they're going to spend, I say to myself, wow, you could do that even if you were a small employer. Instead of giving somebody a $2,000 raise, you could pay back their student loan, $2,000 a year. I think it would be a huge game changer.
Wow, that's an awesome idea.
I can see some of these, like in the book, she talks about how Evernote provides a benefit of housekeeping to employees. I want to work there right now. Seriously.
I want to work there too because I'm in need of a housekeeper.
Yes. Like I can definitely see your pet-friendly workplace or paid leave for new fathers. Those are little things that I think most companies, they're not even thinking about when they're trying to come up with a model for acquiring great talent. They're focusing just on the money when these are all cool things that people want.
Right, because the money goes away really quickly. We all know that. But the idea that you get to go home tonight to a nice clean house and you're not the one who has to do it is quite appealing.
Is there anybody that likes to clean? Really? That should
Not
be
in
part
this
of every
room.
job. So when you talk about recruiting versus attracting talent to a company, what do you mean there? What's the distinction?
Well, recruiting takes a lot of effort. It requires a lot of energy. I mean, if you think about it, first you have to create this job description, and then you create a job posting, and then you have to figure out where to put it, and then you hopefully get a bunch of resumes, and then you have to screen them, and then you go through the interviewing process. And then hopefully you get to the point where you've checked references and you make an offer, and then the offer's not accepted. That's a lot of work. Now, if you look at the other side of that coin, attraction, where you have a, line of people outside your door who want to come work for you, and you get to select those people, that takes a lot less work and is a lot more effective. And that's what I do for my clients. I help make them more attractive.
I like that.
What is positive turnover? Because you say just because you don't have a high turnover at your company, it doesn't mean that you have a great culture necessarily.
Well, I think we've all been in environments where we've worked with people who've been in the company for years, who, have retired in place. And a lot of companies are very proud that their turnover is so low. But when you don't have any turnover, there's no opportunity to bring any fresh air in the room. And so maybe you don't have any turnover because you're not managing your people. You're not managing non-performers out. You've got to open those doors so that you can have fresh ideas.
That's great. Talk about your other book, Suddenly in Charge.
Well, that's a book that I love to talk about that book. It's based on my life, where I was tossed into management at the age of 24, and I thought I knew everything. And when that book came out, I actually wrote an apology on CBS Interactive to all my employees who had ever worked for me, because I felt like, oh my gosh, if I knew now what if I knew then what I know now, I would not have created such stress. And I did hear back from one of my employees, and she said, you really weren't that bad.
Well, that's good.
She was lying.
Oh, my God.
I think that's part of anybody in their 20s. Everybody feels like they know everything there is to know.
Exactly. However, that book is really two books in one. The first half of that book is on managing up, which is a skill that many of us are not taught in school. And that is, how do you manage those relationships above you so you can get the resources that your people need? And then the other half of the book is on managing down.
Interesting.
Two books for one.
It seems like it'd kind of be a good book for employees, too.
Yeah.
Well, it is for employees. You're right. The managing up piece is definitely for employees because everybody needs to manage up.
Yes, that's interesting. So it's really for anybody, in any workplace, because I can see even my salespeople getting value out of reading something like that.
Well, my whole philosophy is that if you don't manage up, you're not going to have to worry about managing down.
Yes.
That's very good. That's very good. And can you share with the audience some tips on how to manage up, like an example of what you're talking about?
Well, you have to decode your boss. You have to decode his or her style. Bosses come in all different flavors, and you have to figure out which one you've been given. And for example, if you have a boss that is very dictatorial and, wants you to do things in a certain way, and you're the kind of person who doesn't follow protocol very well, then you're going to be in a very uncomfortable situation for a very long time. So my recommendation is to do what you're asked to do and do everything possible to help him or her get promoted. So they're no longer your boss.
That's awesome.
That's very good advice.
I would like your advice. I know we only have a couple minutes left, but I work at my company. There's two people that own the company. So basically it's myself and my partner. We both run the company. And for the most part, we've divided up the different things that we do. So I'll handle some areas. He handles some areas. But I'm going to say 2 to 3 times a month, a salesperson will go to one of us and ask for whatever, something, and we give the answer, and they don't like the answer, and so they go to the other one, and it's like being a kid again. You don't like what mom says, so let's go to dad and see what he has to say.
Exactly.
What do you do about it? What can you do?
Well, mom and dad have to get on the same page.
That's what we do, because we always talk. So I'll call Andy and be like, I just got this call, and he'll say, I've already answered that question. Drives us nuts.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's funny. I mean, we see that with our kids. So,
Yes.
you should be ready for it.
Yes. All right. Not much you can do. Just communicate between us, I guess.
Exactly. And let them know mom and dad are on the same side.
Yes. This talent, I'm absolutely 100% going to read both books. As a brokerage, real estate company owner, what we do is attract talent. And interestingly, because I can see all the tips in here, the number one thing we do every day is re-recruit the people that work for us. So
that's good.
Because everybody has a choice when they wake up every single day of where they're going to work. And our goal is to make sure that they continue to choose our company. So huge value in talent magnetism, and Suddenly in Charge, I think, is awesome too, and how to be a better leader.
And I'd like to know a little more. I know we don't have much time left, but I'm curious. Can you give us some tips on managing millennials? That seems like every time you open up any sort of article on LinkedIn, it's how to do this or how to do that, the way it relates to millennials. What's your opinion on it?
Well, my opinion is that if you look back at when you were, quote unquote, a millennial, I think you wanted a lot of the same things. And when you look at what each of the generations is really looking for, it comes down to, feeling valued. It comes down to work-life balance. It comes down to feeling like you're making a contribution and your company's willing to invest in you. And, when I work with my clients, I work with companies like General Motors, New Balance, Best Buy. These are the best practices that we apply across all generations.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
That's good. It's true. It's pretty much what all of us wanted when we were that age.
Yes.
So.
And we still want it. So I don't see the need to really differentiate.
Good advice. Thank you. And thanks for being on the show with us today, Roberta. Anybody that's listening, if you'd like more information or you'd like to contact Roberta, you can do so through her website at MatusonConsulting.com. And Matuson is Matuson. That's going to do it for this edition of Get Real with Bob and Stacy. Tune in again next weekend for more.